Welcome to Straight Talk. How's this week's budget setting the economy up, especially the rural economy, for the year ahead? Are there enough gains for the productive sector to lead the way forward as the government keeps urging it to do? And what effect will indications of an increase in Fonterra's forecast payout have? Is another dairy boom on the way, and all that might entail? Today I'm joined by Bruce Sheppard, Chairman of the Shareholders Association, and National Business Review editor Nevil Gibson. Well, Bruce, what's Bill English delivering for farmers in the budget?
I would say nothing. That said, it should be a budget that is focused on developing the productive sector in general and suppressing as much as you possibly can the consumption aspirations of New Zealanders.
So there are some levels of that direction being taken in what has been announced in the budget?
Yes, you have the rejigging of GST, which should provide some element of a break on consumption, and a lowering of top marginal tax rates, which is a very indirect method of encouraging aspiration and production. Yeah. But beyond that, very little. Yeah,
but Neville, what do you think? Farmers are being continually told they're the backbone of the country, the powerhouse of the economy, and yet when it comes down to it, there doesn't seem to be very much there to encourage them further in those aspirations.
Well, we're at an interesting stage in the economy because there's no doubt a recovery underway, and the key thing is for the government finances not to get in the road of it. So it's important to keep the productive sector doing what it's going to do naturally, whether that means reducing consumption, as Bruce suggests, in some areas, but also exporting more. And certainly the external factors are in our favour at the moment. And so most people in that area of the economy should be feeling pretty happy looking forward.
So are we going to see more of an emphasis, Bruce, on this whole level of the productive sector? Are we going to see government speaking more about their dreams and aspirations for that side of what's happening?
Generally speaking, John Key has campaigned initially on building an aspirational society. Certainly for the first year of his government, he hasn't been speaking in such terms. In the second year, we can expect this budget to be a recommencement of that which he got elected to do. So I would say, yes, we will have. In terms of the major thing a government can do to help exporters in general, beyond tinkering, the core issue is actually the level of our exchange rate relative to our major export currencies, which are the Aussie dollar and the US dollar. And frankly, there's very little they can do about that unless they reset policy settings in monetary policy. Labor had a select committee hearing on monetary policy, which National actively participated in, and we had no change. So I don't see that there will be any significant change in monetary policy, which would be the single best thing they could do to exporters. Our dollar is too high against the US dollar, and it's probably too high against the Aussie dollar as well. And until those imbalances in our currency are dealt with, exporters are going to continue to have a pretty uncertain and volatile future.
Yeah, well, that's certainly music to farmers' ears. What do you think, Neville?
Well, there's no question that New Zealand is linked to other commodity currencies, and they are very volatile at the moment. But we've also seen a huge decline in the euro caused by government indebtedness in the Eurozone. So we've got to be very careful. I think the right priorities is to get the government finances. They're going to be better than expected a year ago. I don't think the government needs to be quite so aspirational, so it's going to step back rather than step up and all that sort of thing. I think that's a nonsense anyway. They've just got to have fewer impediments and to allow the market forces to work in our favour. I think a lot of the exporters are pretty happy with where the dollar is. There's ways of getting around that, of course, and you've got quite a substantial boom, not just in dairy, but also in horticulture.
Yes, absolutely. What about...
But perversely, Neville, what you were suggesting, if I want a lower dollar, is an irresponsible government so that we can become like Greece faster.
Because we don't want that.
And we don't want that.
We're going to be importing a lot more cheaper bulldozers and tractors from Europe.
Yeah, yes indeed. What about farmers' constant complaint that they get regulation loaded on them from government? Any indication that that side of things is going to be reduced?
I presume you are referring to animal welfare and resource management issues?
Mainly, but there are others in terms of ACC and IRD constraints.
No, but we all have that.
Yes, yes, but farmers feel particularly got at, shall we say.
But they're not. We're all got at by the Inland Revenue and ACC. What farmers have that is unique is animal welfare issues. I find it bizarre that we grow animals to eat and we somehow think we need to care for them particularly. The only thing that matters economically is the quality of the meat and the wool. Perhaps I shouldn't join the SPCA, obviously. In terms of resource management issues, farmers have more of them to contend with than many others. So I would say that the generic things that are relevant to farmers are those two aspects. And also water. Water is going to become a major issue for them.
All of these issues are driven from offshore. It's what customers want. We saw a program on TV this week about bringing up chickens that we eat, and the customer is very focused on the welfare of them. Might be quite irrational, of course, and there might not be any taste difference. Now,
moving on to Fonterra and suggestions that there could be a boost in the predicted payout for next season. Are we just going to go into another dairy boom mentality, Bruce?
It's possible, but I hope it's unlikely. About 18 months ago, I came to the view that the dairy sector was at the top end of an irrational boom. My clue to that was farm advisors from the Waikato coming to Auckland to sell syndicated farms to investment bankers in Auckland at a 2% cash yield. I assume they got it away. On top of that, land prices in the last boom got to such stupid numbers that you could not economically run a dairy farm. In fact, inner city residential property looked like a better investment than a dairy farm on a cash flow basis. And there have been a number of late entrants to the industry, and there is a mountain of debt hanging over farmers. I hope that if the payout ratio increases, it will avert another credit crisis. Because if it doesn't, it's just waiting to happen.
What do you think, Nevil?
Well, the KPMG report on agriculture had some very good figures on the absolutely low, if not nil, returns from most forms of farming, if you look at it purely on a cash basis. And obviously, when land prices get like that, there are constraints, and maybe we need to look wider at land use. Obviously, the cities are one aspect there where house price, or the land for houses, are driven up by artificial boundaries around the cities, and it may be more not just intensified living, but intensified farming more around the cities, and spreading people more evenly out over the country.
Have we not learnt anything from what happened last time, Bruce, with that great spike in dairy prices, the rush into investment in property, and now the sort of standoff that there is with vendors and potential purchasers not wanting to agree on a price as yet in order to get the best deal? Is that a wasted experience?
Of course it is. Humans never learn. We are habitually extremely optimistic and habitually extremely pessimistic. It's base human nature. The boom-bust cycle's inevitable. And if you try to actually learn from the past and fight the trend, it's like being a lemming in a pack. You can be a really smart lemming trying to fight against the flow, but you're going to go over the cliff with the pack. Pack mentality is a human response. I doubt that we will ever learn anything, ever. So but then I'm cynical.
I think the one trend that the KPMG report points to, though, is that there's going to be more corporate farming and fewer individuals involved, and I think that'll bring more sense to the investment side of it and how much people should borrow against land.
Nevil,
and so on.
Now you're being horribly optimistic. You really do believe that corporate mentality actually in some way bucks human reality.
The Shareholders Association will at least have some say in how the corporates are run, even when they get involved in farming.
Well the reality is corporates are simply a conglomeration of people that in theory have a greater rational aspiration for the common good than the rest of us. But the reality is it doesn't work that way, you know that.
Well, we'll just see how they match up against individual farmers. Welcome back. Now it's time for You Said It.